Okay, so one of the things that I promised at the end of the last video was to show you how the Metasploit console, the Metasploit framework, can control other applications as well. Think of, as I say, Metasploit is a framework. It's not really a penetration testing tool itself. It does have the ability to execute exploits, but I think you'll find this feature pretty cool. So if we open up the MSF console, just takes a few seconds to load. There's multiple applications that you can control. You'd be best off having a look on the Metasploit website for a full list. However, I'm sure other ones will be added all the time. Also, you get other applications which I'll show you, which are classed as a wrapper for Metasploit. They give you a more graphical interpretation of it. It's a lot easier to use, but I'll show you anyway. So, if we go ahead and we load the OpenVAS module, we can see it is successfully loaded. Now we need to do, I'll show you some of the help options first. You can do openvas_help, which should guide you through almost anything that you need to do. Let's get a bigger screen. So tasks, targets, formats of reports, that kind of thing. You should have a look through these in your own time. Now we need to run the OpenVAS connect. So it runs a version of help. So if you just run OpenVAS connect, it'll tell you what parameters it needs. So it needs OpenVAS_connect, the username, the password, the port, and confirm if it's SSL or not. So we do OpenVAS connect. The username we set was Kali. The password was Kali123. We want it to point to our Metasploitable Linux box, which was 192.168.0.8. No, sorry, we don't. That's my mistake. We want it to connect to the OpenVAS running on localhost. So localhost port 9390, and it is going to use SSL, so we'll just confirm that. OpenVAS connection successful. We're on to a winner here. So we'll do OpenVAS, spelled correctly, target create, and we'll call it Metasploitable VM, which is located at 192.168.0.8, I believe, and we will give it the label of new scan. Perfect. Okay, let's have a look at the config list. So these are the kinds of scans we can run. The IDs are what you have to put in to give it a particular scan. So 0 is empty, 1 is full and fast, 2 full, fast and ultimate, 3 full, fast and very deep, 4 full, fast, very deep, ultimate, which of course we'll be going through before, in the ID world anyway. So we have a look at the target list. So OpenVAS target list. We have ourselves in there, which is ID 0, and then we have the Metasploitable VM, which is ID number 1. So if we create a new task, OpenVAS_task_create, Metasploitable VM, new_scan, it's ID. In fact, before we do it, let's just check, make sure we've got the right syntax here. So it needs OpenVAS task create, name, comment, ID tag, and target ID. So OpenVAS task create, Metasploitable VM, new scan, and then config ID, we'll do a full and fast scan, and the target ID is target number 1. Target created. So progress is a percentage. -1 means that it hasn't started yet. So we do an OpenVAS task list. Should show you exactly what we have on the screen now, so you can view the progress. You can do an OpenVAS task start, 0 because it's ID 0. It says OK, request submitted. Let's have a look again at OpenVAS task list. Progress running 1. You should see that increase to 2 in a second, depending on how long it's going to take anyway. And then once it's actually finished, you can do an OpenVAS report list, which will show you the Metasploitable VM report. And then you can format the report as well into various different formats. Now, what you can do is you can load these reports back into back into Metasploit for future exploitation. If you want to do that, you need to export it as an NBE, which is obviously, it says here, a legacy OpenVAS report. So if you wanted to download the reports, we can't because it's not finished yet, but you would do an OpenVAS report download. So it requires report ID, format ID, path, and report name. So report ID would be 0. Format ID we want here at NBE, so that's 5. The path, stick it in root home, and the report name would be test report 1. Once it's downloaded back into the Metasploit database, you can then use it to cross-reference any exploits that you already have configured to see if the system will be vulnerable against them. Okay, so I also mentioned that there's various wrappers available as well for you to use Metasploit a bit easier, a bit more easily than you can with the console. One of them is called Armitage, which I think is a fantastic tool. You can start it in Kali just by typing the word, and it will start up. It is just a graphical interface for Kali, basically. It's got some pretty cool animations on it. I think it was written by somebody who's definitely into the Japanese anime. So we want it to connect. It tells you that the RPC server isn't running. By clicking yes, I just accepted that it will start it for you. It'll get connected now on port 55553 without SSL. As you can tell, it does take a little while. It's opened up the Metasploit console at the bottom here. And what you can do is you can add a host. So if we add a host of, then you can run a scan against that host. Which you'll see it all running down here. You can see it going through all the various ports, etc. And then once it's found that, it will look against what it's found and see what it can find in its vulnerability database associated with the Nmap or the MSF results, which is quite good. I was saying here there's 5 scans to go. We'll just let this go to the very end. 4 scans. 3. 2. 1. Complete. So now we have to tell it to find attacks. Which it should do rather quickly. There we go, happy hunting. It's nice and polite. And then you can either manually go through and look at all the attacks it's found, which is quite a few, or you can do what's called a Hail Mary attack, which basically goes through and does every single one of them. So if we have a look, say FTP or real server, you can run it, it should pop up down here. You can use a reverse connection, launch the attack. There we go, done. and we've basically got shell access now to the exploited device. But we can do a Hail Mary attack, which will do them all. Very nice of it to basically throw 150 something exploit against it. Like I say, it's called Hail Mary for a reason. It's not recommended you do this on any network that you're worried about having problems with, because it'll probably cause a denial of service for most of the users as well. There we go, it's changed to red with some lightning bolts around it, which means it's now being compromised. It takes a couple of minutes to finish. Complete. Now we have interpreter access, we have shell access. So we look at shell, interact. There we go, we now have shell access on that particular box. Superb. This is a very graphical way to use MSF. It works really well. I would recommend it for anybody who is kind of introducing themselves to Metasploit.